Welcome to the Make It Happen with Will Polston podcast.
I know that obviously hypnosis nowadays has been a big part of the work that you do. It's a huge part of rapid transformational therapy, which obviously you created. But when you joined, I believe that when you started to learn hypnosis, it was from Gil Boyne, and obviously Gil was sort of a real leader in the world of hypnosis as well. So how important and instrumental to your success do you think it was from learning from someone that was at the top of their game in becoming the person you've become and doing the great work you have?
You see, when you work with people like Gil and like my dad and like Jane Fonda, and then of course I began to get a lot of very famous, wealthy clients, that was such a lesson because I began to realize that they all think the same. I may be working with a billionaire who's flown me in on his private jet, or someone who's running their own cafe, but everyone had the same problems. And one of the foundations of RTT, the reason I created my own brand of therapy was, let's cut through it. I even call my brand of hypnosis skipnosis, because we skip all that let's float along on a cloud and, oh, your headache's black, let's turn it pink, let's have a long walk through the forest to relax, because frankly no one's got the time anymore. And so I was looking at what makes people tick. Why are some people really successful in love, in business, and why are other people not? Why are some people depressed and other people seem to have it all? And of course, it all comes down to the way you think. You can cut that any way you like, but the way you feel is always going to be down to two things: the pictures you make in your head and the words you say to yourself. And that's actually very good news, because that's so easy to change. The pictures you make in your head, the words you say to yourself. If I'm about to go on stage and speak, and I've many times sat in the room outside with other speakers, go, oh God, I'm so nervous. And this is terrifying, isn't it? And oh my God, this is a nightmare. And I feel like I'm being tortured. I'm like, what? Being invited on a television show to talk about your book. That's your fantasy dream come true. Why would you call it a nightmare, torture, hell, a disaster? I'm losing my mind, or I'm losing my shit. I'm like, well, of course you're not, because we'd all have left the room if that was true. But people, without even knowing it, use very, very negative words, and they intensify. I'm having a massive panic attack. I've got chronic stress. I'm falling apart. I'm losing the plot. When you're actually talking about being invited to give a presentation at work, or maybe go on a television show and discuss your book, or perhaps go and speak, or maybe going on a date with someone who could turn out to be the love of your life. And, you know, your thoughts control your feelings control your actions control your events and your behavior. And everything goes back again to how you think. And changing how you think is incredibly easy. I really wish it was taught in schools. And in fact, we do have a lot of our RTTs, people we've trained now, teaching this in schools and being paid for it. And we've got our anti-bullying program in schools, and we're getting a lot of RTT in schools, in juvenile detention. I think you call it reform school. We've got some hospitals using it. But, you know, people have been told that change is complicated. When I was studying, I never forget my very eminent teacher saying, you know, the mind is an immensely complicated thing. It takes a lifetime to understand it and a second lifetime to apply the understanding. I'm like, but how does that work? Because we don't have two lifetimes. Why would you get an amazing mind that it would take your whole life to work out? So that was a thing I wanted to simplify. And really, my own clients taught me the workings of the mind. You don't need to know much about the mind at all in order to make it your best friend and your best ally. Your mind does what it thinks you want. When you go, if another guy dumps me, I'll kill myself. I'll die if that goes wrong. I just couldn't cope with that. This kid is making me insane with tiredness. You're telling your mind, I don't want that. And then you wonder why you have secondary infertility, or why relationships don't work. So your mind does what it thinks you want. It bases it entirely on the way you dialogue with yourself, which you're always free to change. We are super coded to always run back to what's familiar while avoiding what's unfamiliar. And that can seem difficult, but hey, you can make anything familiar. If you take a bit of plastic and shove it in your eye, that doesn't feel familiar at all. But if you wear lenses every day, it becomes familiar in no time at all. And then the final thing about the mind is that the way you feel about everything is down to the pictures you make and the words you make, which you're free to change. And so many people make really negative pictures. How was last week? Oh, it was hell. It was a disaster. It all went wrong. I nearly died of stress. My builder is making me lose my mind. My kids is making me want to kill myself. And I ate all weekend like an out of control train wreck. And now look at me, I'm the size of a horse, which isn't true. So if you're prepared to lie to yourself like that without even knowing it, tell yourself a better lie. How was your weekend? It was amazing. I ate really healthy food, had great time with my kid, I got some work done, and I just had the best time. You might say, well, that's not true either. But hey, here's a choice. You can say whatever you like. You can be super negative or super positive. You are free to do that. But what you're not free to do is to choose what the negative does to your body. When you say this headache is killing me, if I look at a cake, I get fat, my job is killing me. Of course you can say that because it's a free country, but you can't choose what that does to your nervous system, to your body, to your life. So you might as well think, right, I can only tell you the truth. Believe me, your mind doesn't know, and it certainly doesn't care if what you tell it is good or bad, right or wrong, true or false. So you might as well tell it amazing things. So if I'm going to go on stage and I feel that tingling, I can go, oh my God, I'm having a panic attack. I'm so nervous. I'm shaking, like my stomach's doing somersaults. So I can go, I'm so excited. That feeling is excitement, because we have to learn to decide what our feelings mean. I'm going on a date and I'm sick to my stomach. I'm going on a date and I feel great. This could be the night where I meet my soulmate. And it's so easy to talk to yourself differently. You know, my new book is called Tell Yourself a Better Lie, because that's what we do all the time.
I think most people massively underestimate the power of language. And as you've just said there'll be people listening to this going, oh my God, yeah, I say this all the time to myself. No wonder I feel the way that I feel.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting.
You can find the full episodes of the Make It Happen with Will Polston podcast here on YouTube, on iTunes, Spotify, and all other major podcast platforms.